And welcome, everyone. iTalk 106.7 FM, the voice of the mountain. I'm your host, Jineane Ford. I have Kelly Meixler. She's kind of a community advocate and all kinds of stuff and busy and all kinds of things up here in the White Mountains. Hi, Kelly. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for calling in. Now, I wanted to ask you, I saw some posts on social media about a petition drive concerning us up here in Navajo County. Tell our listeners, what is that all about?
Well, originally, it was a few of us who were going to the Board of Supervisors, and we were speaking into the record what we saw to be true, was that there is a nonprofit that was dissolved by the Arizona Corporation Commission in 2024 that has been working with the developers that are putting in all these wind and solar and data centers in the White Mountains, both in Navajo and Apache County. And it started with Jason Whiting and Chris Pastors and a few others, and they have taken money from all these developers so that they would. And this is partially speculation, but partially it's clearly written into the record of time how it worked out. We had gone for over a year and had been asking the board to have an agenda item where we could discuss these projects. We wanted to hear from the board what they were thinking, what their intention was, and they just kept telling us, "Oh, we don't have any projects in the mix. We don't have any." But meanwhile, they were changing the ordinances so they would never have to get public comment. They changed the ordinances so that they only had to get a developer agreement. Like, Jineane, if you and I wanted to open up a business on our private land and change the zoning and for instance, they wanted to put in these unlimited height turbines, right? Like, we had a limit of how many stories, how tall a building could be, but they wanted these to be over 650 feet tall. So they changed the ordinances for the benefit of these developers. And then they changed the ordinances so they didn't even have to go to planning and zoning. You and I would have to go to planning and zoning. But these renewable projects, they just get to work privately with the county, and then the board approves of their development agreement.
Yeah, and we don't know nothing about it. And we also
know nothing about it.
And we're also begging for setbacks.
Yeah, yes. And so, the Board of Supervisors would tell us, well, they don't have any projects to talk about. Meanwhile, our economic development director is also the Real AZ development director, working directly with these developers. So you can't, you can't say you don't have any idea when you're working directly with these projects to get them approved. So, but they did. They told us they had no idea. And so it's been very frustrating. And I wanted to show the Board of Supervisors that there are more people who can't make it. Like, we don't allow, one of the things that is infuriating to me is that our Board of Supervisors, I think the last meeting, 3 of the supervisors were on Zoom for the meeting, but they don't allow the public to participate on Zoom. We can't do a call to the public on Zoom. They did it during COVID, but they don't allow it now. So people who can't drive an hour and a half or 45 minutes to get to Holbrook for the meeting at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, they're just immediately cut out of the process. And that seems to me completely, taxation without representation. So we created this petition so that we could show the board that there are many, many people who stand opposed but physically can't stand there on Tuesday at 9 a.m.
Okay, so they could be there virtually and be able to be involved, since some of the supervisors are too.
Involved.
Right.
And they want to be informed, but we're not informed. When they had, you and I talked several months, or it was after the March 24th meeting, I think, where the Board of Supervisors let Chris Pastors give that presentation on Real AZ. But they never addressed our actual accusations that we had brought to the board that we wanted clarity on. And that's that they're violating several Arizona revised statutes by continuing to operate this Real AZ. We wanted them to speak directly to those accusations, and instead we got this marketing thing where he was even touting Zenny Homes as opening up a new office in St. John's in the next few weeks, which is an absolute lie. Like, Zenny Homes is permanently closed. They had a bond sale for the last of their assets. They're not coming back. There's no more. But instead of talking about what the public wanted to hear about, they gave just this total nonsense. I call it a marketing presentation where they were still actively recruiting new members. It was just, it's bizarre how the county is trying to play that, just play us for fools. You know, they're trying to continue keeping the public keep the public in the dark while they pursue all of these projects on behalf of their members of this Real AZ. They're paying members of Real AZ.
And how do people sign this petition?
So we have it online on change.org. There is a petition at my husband's office, Meixler Investment Management, which is right there by the that Take and Bake pizza shop and Denny's on White Mountain Boulevard. There's a couple members in Holbrook. There are several people who, like Mr. Robert Black, who he's a city councilman in Holbrook. He's circulating the petition around. But yeah, the easiest way would be to sign online.
Okay. Or go to your husband's office, which again is right on White Mountain Boulevard, again by the Murphy's Take and Bake. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the name of his office again?
Meixler Investment Management.
Okay. And so people can sign this petition, which basically says what again?
So the petition asks for them to cut all ties with Real AZ because we want them to stop working on behalf of their paying members and bring the public back into importance here. We want them to defend the citizens' health and our shared water resources. So we're asking them to call a moratorium. And, we have the legal right to ask them to do this. They have the legal right to do this. They can, under ARS 11833, they can call a moratorium while they review and revise our ordinances. And so that's the other part of this. We want them to rescind Resolution 17-2025 and Resolutions 1-2025 that prioritize renewable projects over other forms of energy. And then in 17-2025, that's where they got rid of the height cap. That's where they agreed to having these developer agreements with no public oversight. That's where they got rid of all the water concerns, no water studies. I mean, if you're going to put in more than 600 wind turbines that are going to use, this project West Camp, Brian Layton at the last presentation, he's at this West Camp 2 presentation, I think he said that they are going to use 18,000 gallons of water, which Mr. Robert Black said, no, that can't possibly be right. And I think it was a misspeak on Brian Layton's behalf. I think he meant to say 18,000 gallons per pad, but there's 144 pads, so that's 3.2 million gallons of water, right? And that doesn't include the water in perpetuity that they need to use to keep the dust suppression down because they bulldoze all the trees and get rid of all the scrubs out, the scrub bush out there. Yeah. So it's a lot of water use, and I think as a shared resource, it's fiscally and it's irresponsible of our Board of Supervisors to not have any water studies. So we're asking for them to rescind 17-2025 after they've called us moratorium and rewrite these ordinances so they protect the county's health, they protect the county's water resource, the aquifer, and they rewrite them so that there's just some precautions to.
And I wish they'd rewrite them so we have more than 700, that we have just enough setback. They actually moved it in to where we have just enough setback where the wind turbine, if it falls onto your property, it'll just miss your doorstep. And that is absolutely asinine. We were asking for anything. They were saying they probably give us a mile setback, right? And then
that's what they were like bragging. That
they moved it in. They moved it in, and, which is absolutely, and it's so sad. And there's not a big pocket of money when all your real estate values just plummet. Like happened in Oklahoma and Texas. Now
they're concerned about the developers suing them, but I'm saying, well, what about the public?
No, that's where we all need to sue them individually, like what Steve Carvall has talked about. All those letters we need to forward.
And an ultra-veers. There's an ultra-veers opportunity here, which is a mismanagement of taxpayer funds.
There you go.
Illegal under ARS 103804 and 103805. And under 35202 to continue operating this Real AZ and to continue to spend public funds and resources on a dissolved private entity. So really we want them to understand that the public is waking up, that there's many of us who stand together. And so I believe we've collected over 500 signatures in less than a week.
So it's going well then. Okay. So again, guys, look up this petition online. You go where for the petition?
So it's at change.org. And the White Mountain Independent just wrote an article. I'm going to go ahead and post the petition in the comments of their article on Facebook, and I'll try to post it under the comments on their website on White Mountain Independent so that people can find it easily. If you search for the White Mountain Independent on Facebook, you'll see the comments that explain what Real AZ is and what the public is really asking for.
Okay. And I wanted to run one other thing, too. You can stay on the line with me. Well, let me ask you right now, what are you hearing about the recent Trump things about stopping wind turbines over 100 feet? What are you hearing about that?
Right. So we're really hopeful that this means when the Department of War they review our projects, that they're going to recognize that these are national security concerns and they'll cut the funding, because our projects these projects that Navajo County has been curating, they are taking advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act. Those are federal funds. And so if the federal funds go away, I think that these projects would go away, and we're praying and hoping that these projects go under this Department of Defense review so that they can't take that money.
Yeah, we're hoping Arizona projects are there. So again, everybody needs to continue to write your different congressmen, your lawmakers, everybody, and beg for that, beg to save us from these wind turbines. Okay, Kelly Meixler, thank you so much. You are awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in. All righty, everybody, keep it right here. iTalk 106.7 FM, the voice of the mountain.